Today, we're talking about one of the biggest and most mysterious infrastructure projects Tucson has ever seen, Project Blue. And there's a twist, so stay tuned because I'm going to share why this may be the first step in a much bigger plan, one that could have a major change in Tucson. So stay tuned, we're going to jump in. Let's go. Hey, I'm Rich. My family has lived here for over 150 years. If you want to know everything about lifestyle, real estate, and new builds in Tucson and the surrounding area, then you've come to the right place. Hit the subscribe button to stay tuned in and tap the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a thing. Now, before we jump into the mystery that is Project Blue, I want to remind you that if you don't know, I've worked in real estate for over 15 years here locally in Tucson, both as a certified real estate appraiser and a real estate agent. So if you're looking to make a move today or even a year from today, grab my contact information out of the description below. I'll put it on screen for easy access here. You can call, text, email, or even schedule a free Zoom consult so that we can meet face to face. Now, let's talk a little bit about what Project Blue is, because I think there's a lot of mystery around it. It's still not 100% set in concrete. However, it does pose some pretty interesting things happening in Tucson. So what is Project Blue? Project Blue is a $3.6 billion with a B infrastructure project that has been officially approved by the Arizona Corporation Commission as of 2024. Now, at its core, Project Blue is a massive data center, and its proposed location of being built is just north of the Pima County Fairgrounds in southeast Tucson. Now, the company behind it is AZ Solar One, which is an arm of EPCAR, which is a Canadian utility company. There is an element to this, an initiative that's part of this around water conservation, which is really interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit further. So yes, there is another component, another initiative as part of this project around water conservation, but the real power play here is data. So why Tucson? Well, Tucson is really positioned at a really important place for a data center like this because we're located on key railways. We've got pretty good interstate access, specifically where this is positioned to be built right off of I-10. We've got easy energy access. We also have a lot of land available, and we've got direct access to the CAP water and the Central Arizona Project water system, as well as Tucson Electric Power. Now, there's some other factors that play into this as well, I'm sure, such as lower land costs as compared to other places like Phoenix. And Southern Arizona tends to have lower regulatory hurdles that you have to jump through. And let's be honest, there's probably going to be less media attention coming to a place like Tucson versus Phoenix. Now, I think that this is where it gets kind of interesting because this was originally filed under a generic utility company name like Solar AZ, but when you connect the dots in terms of the utility name that it was filed under and the proposed project being a multi-billion-dollar data center, those two things raise some questions. Now, this is where I think things get really interesting, and you definitely want to pay attention to what happens next, because we've seen similar plays in the last several years in Arizona with companies like Meta, TSMC, Amazon, and Lucid Motors make huge moves in Arizona, Casa Grande, and Phoenix primarily, very quietly, oftentimes under a very similar codename project. Now, Project Blue has all of the same fingerprints to what we've seen already happen in Casa Grande and Phoenix for becoming a future tech hub. Renewable energy focus, water redundancy, high power availability, and a multi-billion-dollar scale. It would not be surprising at all if this was the beginning phases of a major data center play, AI infrastructure, or chip manufacturing. If you're paying attention at all to tech growth in Arizona, this is a play you definitely want to pay attention to, because this is very much has the markings of what Casa Grande was doing right before what was happening at Casa Grande, which is just north of us, right before Lucid Motors moved in. And it's very reminiscent of what's happening in Buckeye and Surprise in the wake of Amazon and TSMC moving into town as well. So, what does this mean for Tucson? What does this mean for locals or people who are planning to move to Tucson and become locals? Data centers such as this require millions and millions of dollars in construction, utilities, and tech jobs. These projects are magnets for cloud companies, cybersecurity firms, and server farms. But it's not just about servers. It's about tech giants looking for space, solar power, and infrastructure. There is going to be an economic ripple effect, as you would imagine with a big multi-billion-dollar project like this. We're going to see a big push in construction labor and construction demand, long-term skilled labor, and infrastructure improvement. Now, from a housing demand perspective, that's certainly going to bring some new jobs, new job potential into Tucson, but it's certainly going to boost the economy around these projects as well. Now, the good thing is because it's located, the proposed location is right off of Interstate 10, you're likely to see areas like Vail really become even more of a hub for people looking for a great suburb that is still a relatively easy commute. Also, places like Rancho Sahuarita, Southeast Tucson, and other places around this particular location that could serve as a great location for people in the future workforce to want to be located. Now, that demand surge is almost certainly, if you just understanding basic laws of supply and demand, that demand surge is almost certainly going to play a part in the future landscape of values in those areas as well. Something else that's really interesting when you look at what is happening in this area, this is not the first billion-dollar project that we've had breaking the news over the last 12 to 24 months. There is also Tucson, Southern Arizona's biggest, newest sports complex, known as the Mosaic Quarter, that is not too far away on this corridor of I-10 as well. So you've got a lot of money that is being relocated into this area in development. And so could this be a whole new industrial corridor? I don't know, but it certainly has the makings of something, with $2 billion+ projects coming in within a similar corridor and stretch of Tucson, and with a large budget. I don't know, this could be the start of Tucson claiming its global hub as a tech giant in the southwestern part of the US. This could be the very beginning. So from a local's perspective, I think right now most people don't even know what this project is. It's not even on their radar. And so as this continues to develop, I think it's one that we should really pay attention to, because one of the big questions is, how is this going to affect tech jobs in Tucson, which are some of the highest paying jobs available right now, which from an economic standpoint could really mean that there's going to be people relocating here. There's going to be an increase in demand, which if you're a homeowner already here in Tucson, really it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? I get it from a local's perspective as well. We don't want to lose what has made Tucson so special. However, if you own real estate, the demand incoming to Tucson, or some of these economic factors building out the demand in Tucson for things like jobs and living, that really is a big benefit to us as property owners here in Tucson. Or if you plan on becoming a property owner soon, that is something that's very positive, because that's going to equate in more short-term and long-term appreciation for you as a homeowner. Now, this pressure that's going to be likely created depending on the approval of this project, the different phases and how all of that works out, there certainly is an aspect of it creating a little bit more pressure on the demand here in housing. However, I think right now, and this is a moment in time, there is an opportunity for buyers that we haven't seen in many years. So if you are considering buying in Tucson, I think that with this project proposed and the change in demand, the time for you to act and really get serious could very well be better sooner rather than later. Grab my contact information out of the description below. I'll put it on screen right here. Let's get connected. You can call, text, email, or schedule a free Zoom consult so that we can meet and make sure I'm laying out the whole playbook in front of you to take advantage of the market now versus an increased demand where it's going to be more competitive. Now, with any big change like this, there's always going to be some controversy and some speculation about what it's going to be, whether it's going to bring more good than bad or whether it's going to bring more bad than good. Well, maybe from a utility affordability perspective, could be from a job economic perspective, could be from a cultural perspective. And I'm really curious from your perspective. Drop in the comments. Do you think this is going to be a good thing for Tucson? Do you think it's going to be a bad thing for Tucson? Or are you kind of like me and you're like, well, it could be a good and a bad thing, and we're going to see which one wins. Also, let me know if you are excited about this too, because these quiet moves oftentimes can result in some big economic boosts, as we've seen in places like Casa Grande, Buckeye, and Surprise. I teased it earlier, and here's the big takeaway. If Project Blue is laying the foundation for a major tech player, then Tucson could absolutely be at a pivotal moment in terms of its job sector. Now, we've always flown under the radar, and maybe this is about to change. Let me know, do you think a major tech player is behind this move? Drop it in the comments. I personally review and respond to all the comments, and I'm really curious to hear from you. Lastly, remember, if you're making a move today or even a year from today, let's get connected. All my contact information is below in the description. I'll put it on screen right here as well. Call, text, email, or schedule a free Zoom consult. I'd love to meet you face to face and be able to discuss your real estate goals and how all of this information and what's happening in Tucson could be some key information to help. Until next time, I hope to see you around the neighborhood.